Have you ever just had that feeling that you're being played? You know, that there are these hidden forces pulling the strings on every choice you make, from the price of your morning coffee to the traffic jam that completely ruins your day. Well, turns out you're not wrong. And today, we're going to expose the rules of the game.
Welcome to Animeconomy. We're diving deep into a brilliant book, The Undercover Economist by Tim Harford. And look, this isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers. This is a journey into the secret operating system of our world, from the checkout line at the grocery store all the way to the fates of entire nations. So in this explainer, we are going to decode the secret language of prices. We're going to expose the hidden glitches in the system that cause so much chaos in our lives. And finally, we're going to tackle the biggest question of all: what really makes a country rich or poor? And you're going to want to stick around, because we've saved the most powerful, absolutely mind-bending insight for the very end. Let's get started.
Okay, let's start with something we all know, something we all love, or, at least something we all need: your daily coffee.
So picture this. You walk into a coffee shop near a busy train station. You pay $5 for a latte that you know costs less than $1 to make. You feel ripped off, right? And you blame the shop's crazy high rent. But what if I told you that you've got it completely backwards? The price isn't just a number, it's a weapon. And you, my friend, are the target. To really get this, we need to jump back to the 19th century economist David Ricardo. Imagine two plots of land. One is this lush, fertile meadow that produces a ton of grain. The other is basically useless scrubland that barely produces anything. Which one do you think has a higher rent? The meadow, obviously. Ricardo's big idea was that the rent is simply the value of the meadow's extra productivity compared to the scrubland. It's all about the power of scarcity.
And that idea just flips our common sense right on its head. See, we think the coffee is expensive because the rent is high, but it's actually the other way around. That coffee shop, it's the fertile meadow. Because thousands of us are rushing past, totally willing to pay a premium for convenience, the location itself becomes incredibly valuable. The high rent is just a consequence of our willingness to pay a high price. In a weird way, the landlord isn't charging for the space, they're charging for access to us.
So since companies know that our willingness to pay is the real prize, they become these master strategists, using all sorts of tactics to squeeze the maximum amount of cash from every single one of us. They might use a unique target strategy, like a car salesman haggling with you one-on-one, or a group target, offering discounts to students or seniors. But the cleverest, the most sneaky, is self-targeting, where they basically trick you into revealing exactly how much you're willing to pay.
So just how far will a company go to do this? Well, get ready for this, because this example just perfectly illustrates the dark art of self-targeting. Back in the day, IBM developed this fantastic printer. Now, to justify selling it to big businesses for a high price, they also needed a cheaper version for regular folks. But instead of designing a whole new, inferior printer, they did something incredible. They took the good printer and added a special chip with the sole purpose of slowing it down. Just think about that for a second. They spent more money just to make their own product worse. And that brings us to this deeply counterintuitive rule of the market. It can literally be more profitable to cripple a good product than to design a bad one from scratch. That's how companies separate the bargain hunters from the people who will pay anything for top performance. But if this system of smart prices is so clever, why does it create such dumb problems for all of us? I mean, if markets are so brilliant at setting the price of a coffee, why are they so terrible at solving something as universally hated as a traffic jam? Why is your daily commute still this chaotic, soul-crushing mess? The answer is a glitch in the system, a bug called an externality. The best way to think about it is like the collateral damage from an epic anime battle. You got these two giants fighting, but it's the innocent citizens whose city gets completely wrecked. When you decide to drive your car, you're only thinking about the cost of your gas and your time. You're not paying for the cost you impose on everyone else, the cost of their lost time as you clog up the road. Looking at it this way, it becomes crystal clear. The true cost of your trip is your personal private cost plus the cost you force onto everybody else. That gap, that cost to others, that's the externality. It's a price that really exists, but nobody is paying it. And because that price tag is missing, every single person makes a decision that seems rational for them individually, but it creates this collective chaos for all of us. The traffic jam is simply the result of a missing price tag. By the way, if you're finding this breakdown valuable and it's making you see things a little differently, could you do me a quick favor and hit that like button?
It really does help tell the algorithm that this is a good explainer, which helps more people discover these ideas. And hey, if you know someone who's always stuck in traffic, maybe share it with them.
So, we've seen how prices and their little glitches shape our daily lives. Now, let's zoom way out and apply this exact same logic to the biggest economic question there is. Why are some countries incredibly rich, while other countries, full of hardworking, smart, entrepreneurial people, remain desperately poor?
The answer, it turns out, lies in incentives. Let me tell you a true story from the book that just captures the problem perfectly. In Cameroon, a prestigious private school decided it was time to build a brand new modern library.
They spent a fortune on it. And it was beautiful. I mean, truly impressive. A university-quality building. It was a symbol of progress, of education. But it had one tiny, fatal flaw. The roof leaked, so badly in fact that you couldn't store a single book inside. It was a completely useless building. So why would this happen? It's because the officials in charge were not rewarded for creating a functional library. Their incentive was to build an impressive-looking project that would qualify the school to become a university. The system rewarded the appearance of progress over actual function, and the result was just a catastrophic waste.
Now, let's contrast that with China. Before 1978, under Mao, farmers worked on these massive collective farms. It didn't matter if they worked their tails off or slacked off all day, they got the same share. There was absolutely no personal incentive to innovate or produce more, and the result was widespread famine and economic stagnation.
Then, in 1978, Deng Xiaoping introduced a simple but totally revolutionary change. Farmers were now allowed to sell anything they produced above a certain quota and keep the profits for themselves. The incentives were completely realigned. And the result? Between 1978 and 1983, that's just 5 years, agricultural output exploded by 40%. It was the same land, the same people. The only thing that changed was the incentive.
And this brings us to the book's final, most profound idea. We've seen how prices communicate information and how incentives drive our behavior. So when you put it all together, what do you get? Well, you get something that economists call the free market. But I think a better name for it is the world's supercomputer.
In theory, a perfectly competitive market is what you might call a world of truth. Every single price is a perfect signal, conveying the precise cost of making something and the precise value someone else places on it. This system acts like a single global supercomputer, processing billions of inputs about costs, desires, and scarcity in real time and adjusting everything perfectly in response.
And what's the ultimate result of this flawless, truth-telling machine? A perfectly efficient system. A world where nothing is wasted, where companies make exactly the right things in the right way, in the right amounts, and they get to the people who value them the most. No waste, no shortages, no surpluses. Pure perfection.
And this is the most important takeaway from the entire book. There is a ghost in the machine. Because a system can be perfectly, flawlessly, 100% efficient, and still be monstrously, horribly unfair.
Let's just read this quote from the book, because it's a total mic drop moment. It is efficient if Bill Gates has all the money and everybody else starves to death, because there is no way to make anybody better off without making Bill Gates worse off. Just let that sink in. By the cold, hard logic of economics, that horrifying scenario is considered efficient. The market's supercomputer doesn't have a moral compass. It optimizes for efficiency, not for justice, not for fairness, and certainly not for the world that we actually want to live in. And that leaves us with the real question, doesn't it? The one that economics alone can't answer. How do we harness the incredible power of this efficient machine while also making sure we steer it with our human values? How do we balance this world of truth with a world of fairness? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Seriously, if you stayed until the end, it means you're not just curious, but you're committed to understanding how the world really works. And that alone separates you from the vast majority of people. If you want more explainers just like this, make sure you subscribe to Animeconomy. Here, we turn complex economics, politics, and power dynamics into clear, visual stories, so you can understand the forces that are shaping our world. And of course, this was just a glimpse into a truly brilliant book. If you want to dive much, much deeper into these ideas, I highly recommend you pick up a copy of The Undercover Economist. I've put a link for you down in the description. Thanks again for your time, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.